The Point.
WQXL Columbia, W264DF.
From the Bart Fireside Studio, the solution for keeping you warm this winter.
This is 107 The Point.
Oh, you pressed the wrong button. Oh, residual.
This is Sports Talk with Phil Kornblum, Chris Bergen, and Pat Daniel. Sports Talk is heard across the state on radio affiliates of the Sports Talk Media Network and is streaming live on sportstalksc.com, as well as Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. The South Carolina Education Lottery lucky number to call in is 888-898-2525. That's 888-898-2525. Now, here are Phil, Chris, and Pat with tonight's edition of Sports Talk.
All right, good evening, everybody. Welcome to Sports Talk here on Christmas Eve of 2021, live Sports Talk edition on the Sports Talk Media Network. Let us be the first, no doubt, the absolute first, to wish you a Merry Christmas and a happy holiday weekend. I hope everything that you get is what you want to receive, and everything that you give to someone is what they want to receive. So everybody will be happy this weekend. We're happy to be with you because there are things going on in the sports world. We encourage you to join us tonight if you want to take a break from the shopping and the spending and the hanging out with the fam, and to hang out with us for a couple of hours. Phone number, lines are open, will be open all night, pretty wide open for your calls. 888-898-2525, South Carolina Education Lottery lucky number here on Sports Talk. I remain on location, and we have Pat Daniel back at our studio in downtown Columbia, so you get to speak to Pat, that red-headed little elf who handles everything for us, back in the studio, and then he'll put you in touch with us. 888-898-2525 is the number. Chris Bergen off on a holiday vacation. He'll be back with us next week. Next week, we will continue to be on location. I'll be in Orlando for the Clemson-Iowa State game in the Cheez-It Bowl, assuming everything moves forward and we don't have a late cancellation like they had in the Hawaii Bowl. And Matt Smith will be covering the Gamecocks in Charlotte, but I'm actually going to head up to Charlotte on Sunday because of the reworked schedule for USC. No media tomorrow when the Gamecocks arrive, and there will be media after the first practice on Sunday. I'll hit that. We'll have that for you up on our website. You'll hear from Shane Beamer and some players on Sunday. Have that for you on our website. And then there's no other in-person media avail for that bowl game. Everything is going to be done leading up to the game on Zoom. After the game, probably the same, but I can't say for sure right now. But Smitty will be in Charlotte to cover the game and join us on Sports Talk. He might even be back in the studio by then with an 11:30 kick in Charlotte. If it's a relatively fast-paced game and they get the post-game done pretty quickly, he could finish up and be back in the studio in Columbia to join us. That would be on, Thursday. Clemson plays on Wednesday at 5:45. The Gamecocks play on Thursday, kicking off at 11:30 in the morning. And, of course, the topic for tonight, if you'd like to chime in, how do you feel about those two games from your perspective of the team that you root for? South Carolina and North Carolina, two old ACC rivals. Their history runs deep. It runs deep. This is another team in the ACC that's had South Carolina's number over the years in football. And the last time they met in Charlotte, as you all recall, it did not go well for the Gamecocks. They blew a lead. They lost their starting quarterback. It was the continuation of the ending for Will Muschamp. I really believe the beginning of the end for Will Muschamp at South Carolina was in the second half of the game in Gainesville, where they led by double digits and then lost that game. It seemed to me from that point on, they lost their so-called mojo. And then they go and get shut out in the bowl game in Charlotte by Virginia. They open the next season in Charlotte against North Carolina and blow the lead in the fourth quarter. and Jake Bentley overthrows a wide open Shi Smith on the post pattern late in that ball game. They connect, they win. They don't connect, they lose. And they lost. And then Bentley, of course, has the fractured foot. He's done for the year. And it was musical chairs at quarterback for the Gamecocks from then on. And that was it. That was going to be it for Will Muschamp at that point. So a lot of history there between the Gamecocks and the Tar Heels. The Gamecocks probably feel like they owe the Tar Heels something. They gifted Mack Brown a win in his return game at North Carolina. It allowed Mack Brown to do that awful victory dance in the locker room that the Tar Heel media people put out on Twitter, showing a 70-year-old man trying to be hip. And he was far from it as far as his moves, as I could tell. But his coaching, was good that day. They have not had a good year this year. They have been a big disappointment. Nobody saw 6-6 in the Mayo Bowl for North Carolina going into this season. They were talking about playoffs with their quarterback and their offensive weapons and what they thought would be an improved defense. They saw big things, and they stubbed their toe from the get, losing at Virginia Tech, a Virginia Tech team that turned out to be not that good either. So it's been a disappointing year. You got two teams sort of in a different mindset, I would say, going into the Mayo Bowl in Charlotte. You got a North Carolina team disappointed to be in Charlotte, and you got a South Carolina team that should be happy, excited to be anywhere. And they were more than willing to take the Charlotte invitation and try to have a winning season in their first year under Shane Beamer. A 6-6 regular season for the Gamecocks. It ended on a sour note with a shutout loss to Clemson, but they have a chance to kind of turn that around with a win against North Carolina next week in Charlotte. And, of course, the Gamecocks are going through some things here in the offseason as well. They've lost their starting quarterback. They've lost their leading rusher. They've lost their top pass rusher. So some other people are going to have to step up. But against that North Carolina defense, I think the South Carolina offense can have a good night. I think Zeb Nolan will have an opportunity to complete passes. I think Josh Vann will have a chance to catch some passes. I think the tight ends might have a bigger role in catching passes against that North Carolina defense, which has been, porous all season long. They should be able to run the ball against this North Carolina defense. But the flip of that is this North Carolina offense is extremely potent, scores a lot of points, runs up a lot of yards. And in Sam Howell, they have a true double threat because he's not a guy that you can just let sit back in the pocket and throw the football. He'll take off and run. He's done a lot of damage with his legs this season. So that is something the Gamecock defense has got to be very strong about, and that is how to slow down Sam Howell, both with his arm and with his legs. And they have a very, very good offense. They run a fast pace. They've run a lot more plays than the Gamecocks have run this year. They have rushed for many more yards. They've thrown for many more yards. This will be a very difficult challenge for the Gamecock defense. And we'll see if Clayton White and his company can come up with a very good defensive game plan. Clemson practiced this morning in Orlando. Beautiful weather in Orlando, like in the 80s. And Dabo Swinney did an interview with Ross Taylor, the Clemson assistant athletic director for sports communications, I think is the complete title. I still like to call them SIDs, but they've moved on from that. So we've got that audio for you. In fact, on our website, it's up along with some video of the Clemson practice from this morning that Clemson provided. If you want to check that out, our website, sportstalksc.com. So we'll hear from Dabo Swinney. He was very pleased with the practice today. Today was like a Monday for them in their game week preparation. So they treated it like a Monday. We'll hear from him, and we'll also get to those two pieces that we've been teasing and just haven't had a chance to get to. The two coordinators, Clayton White for South Carolina and Wes Goodwin for Clemson, get you a little bit of that. Clemson will practice again tomorrow afternoon, and then I think some players are going to talk to Ross Taylor, and he'll make that available. Then on Sunday morning, they have a press conference with the coordinators and some players from both teams. And then more practice, of course. And then practice again on Monday and then a little bit on Tuesday, and they play on Wednesday. So that's what's ahead for Clemson. As far as this matchup with Iowa State, two teams that could have much better records. As you know, Clemson, their 3 losses, all on the road, all by very tight margins. Iowa State, all 4 of their losses, and 3 came on the road, were last possession defeats. They were in all 4 of those losses, and they lost on the last possession. So don't be fooled by their record. Now, they will be without their great running back, All-American running back, Brees Hall, record-setting running back, because he opted out to go ahead and start getting ready for the draft. So the running backs behind him have not had a lot of work. And they certainly will miss him. They have an excellent quarterback who has established all kind of records at Iowa State. And I think he will challenge the Clemson defense. Brock Purdy has over 13,000 total offensive yards in his career at Iowa State. And he has some excellent receivers to throw to. He's got one receiver who has 80 catches. He's got an All-American Campbell Award-winning tight end who catches a lot of balls, and then a second tight end who catches a lot of passes. I think offensively this is going to be very interesting against, of course, the very good Clemson defense. These guys still have some really good weapons. It's going to be a major test for the new coordinators, Goodwin and Kahn, to call the defense. No Brent Venables to scheme it up, though, of course, Goodwin gets a lot of the credit for the previous scheming up of the Clemson defense. But now it's all on him and Kahn to make the calls and get the personnel in the right place. But what I'm saying is this Iowa State offense is pretty darn dangerous. And then defensively, they're right there with Clemson, especially in a league that doesn't really emphasize defense. They are right there with Clemson, 10th nationally in total defense. Clemson is 9th nationally. So this looks like a pretty good matchup on paper. And, not exactly, I'll probably lean towards Clemson when we get down to making our picks early next week, simply because we're more familiar with them. And I'm expecting Uyunglele to have a good ball game. I think I'll be surprised if we don't see some significant growth for him from the end of the regular season to this game. A step back would be very disappointing, I think, for Clemson with this kid. He's got to show now, a major step forward, and display his skills. Now Clemson will be without Justin Ross. I would think that from a receiver standpoint, he'll be missed, but E.J. Williams should be back, and that will be a bonus. And Joseph Ngata will be back. That will be a bonus. And then, of course, it looks like the Collins kids are the 2 new favorite targets for Uyunglele, and they showed some good stuff down the stretch of the season. So, and the running game, I think that can Clemson run the ball effectively against this defense? I think that too is going to be a question mark going into this game, because again, they're very good across the front, and they're very good throughout their defense based on their numbers. So good matchup here, I think, for Clemson. As far as what I'm thinking about the 2 games right now, like I said, I think I would lean with Clemson right now. And South Carolina, North Carolina, I don't know the Gamecocks can score enough points to beat North Carolina. I think I would have to lean North Carolina's way at this point. Just picking them straight up, not considering what the spread is. I think I'd have to lean that way. I just don't know that South Carolina can generate enough offense to keep up with North Carolina's offense, assuming that North Carolina has one of its typical days offensively against the South Carolina defense. So I think I would lean North Carolina's way right now and lean Clemson's way against Iowa State. Your thoughts on that and more coming up after the break. We'll take your phone calls. Love to hear from you on this Christmas Eve. It's our Christmas Eve gift to you, and that is a live edition of Sports Talk. 888-898-2525, South Carolina Education Lottery lucky number. And since 2002, more than $160 million in lottery proceeds have been used to fund SC Hope scholarships for the state's college-bound students. Learn more about the lottery's impact at sceducationlottery.com/education. Wins and playing for fun is a win for education. Be right back.
Founders is offering a low-rate mortgage with up to $4,000 in closing costs to full-time hospital employees, honoring your frontline efforts against COVID-19. With no PMI, no origination fee, and no limit on the loan amount, you can't go wrong. Visit founders.com/HEC and apply for your hospital employee choice mortgage today. Membership qualification required. Terms and conditions apply. Institution NMLS identifier number 410646. Founders is an equal housing lender and is federally insured by the NCUA.
I learned that people are just looking for somebody to listen to them. You can't just start cutting somebody's hair and you're going to be quiet the whole time because you're not going to be in business long.
The South Carolina Education Lottery has provided over $800 million to help students attend technical colleges across our state, investing in a new generation of entrepreneurs, just like James. Your passion is our purpose.
Touchstone Energy cooperative members save more on electricity, and members save more on insurance, groceries, healthcare, restaurants, travel, concerts, and sporting events through Co-op Connections. Touchstone Energy is an alliance of the member-owned electric cooperatives, and as a member, the power is yours. Experience the power of co-op membership with Touchstone Energy and find out how much you can save on electricity and a whole lot more at touchstoneenergy.com.
I don't think there are any sports tonight, are there? There are no NBA games. Now, the one bowl game's been canceled. NFL's not playing tonight. They play tomorrow. Hockey's on hiatus because of COVID. NASCAR's not running. There's no Kentucky Derby. Wrestling. Pat, is there any wrestling tonight? Well, I'm trying to figure out what we can watch tonight. Is there some wrestling out there we can watch?
I am not aware of anything going on tonight, actually. As you had said, anything that was scheduled for tonight, I believe, has been canceled.
Yeah. I haven't checked the lines in a little while, so I thought I would do that here real quick, and then we'll get to your phone calls, 888-898-2525. So a consensus line on the South Carolina-North Carolina game as of today has got North Carolina favored by 9. And Clemson is a 1-point favorite over Iowa State. They opened as a 1-point favorite, and they remain a 1-point favorite. North Carolina opened at 5.5. It's grown to 9. I would take South Carolina and the 9. Can they keep it to within 9 points? Clemson laying the 1. I think that's an indication of how close this game might be. So, knowing Clemson more with their kicking game, maybe Potter is going to boot one at the end to win it by 2 or 3. Probably going to lean that way. All right, 888-898-2525. Let's go to Sam in Charleston. Get us rolling on some calls. We can take your phone calls throughout the entire night, except for a little bit of football we're going to get to. Sam, welcome in. How are you, sir? And happy holidays.
Hate to be the bearer of bad news. Sam, if you hear this, call us back. He hung up during our little segment or little conversation there about sporting events tonight. So, Sam, if you're still listening, call us back. We'll get you right on.
All right, let us know. Pat, what do you think about my take on the two games?
I think I actually agree with you on both. I believe Clemson pulls out the other one. Iowa State is a great team. Similar to Clemson, they also had much greater expectations coming into the 2021 season than the results ended up showing. They had a couple of good wins, though. They could at least feel good about themselves for they in large part kept Oklahoma State out of the college football playoff. Obviously, they then lost to Baylor in the championship game, but that loss hurt them tremendously. But I just think the loss of that running back, their star running back, Breece Hall, not playing in this game. Their second leading rusher on the team is actually their quarterback, Brock Purdy, who had 80 attempts for 224 yards. beyond that, you have to go all the way down to Jarrell Brock, who had 23 carries on the season, all of which came in absolute garbage time at the end of ball games. So I feel like Clemson, even without Venables, the folks there, Wes Goodwin stepping right in, I believe will continue to be extra aggressive on the defensive side. And they're just going to stack the box all night and try to force Brock Purdy into beating them on the outside. The question I have here is, I know they're supposed to be playing. Is anybody going to sit out? Do we know if anybody's going to opt out yet last minute for the Tigers? If we see Andrew Booth elect not to play or anybody else, that may open up the passing game for the Cyclones. But without that, I think this may get ugly quick. And I see Clemson winning by at least 3 scores. Whereas in the South Carolina-North Carolina game, first of all, I'm just excited to have that happen. Just love seeing the rivalry. What a great choice for the Duke's Mayo Bowl to have South Carolina versus North Carolina. I'm with you. South Carolina should be able to put up points against that Tar Heel defense. But at the same time, I do not think the Gamecocks get enough stops. The fact that North Carolina's quarterback did not have to play in this game. He has nothing left to prove. The fact that he is playing leads me to believe he wants to go out with a big victory. And I foresee them pulling away late. I think North Carolina wins by 10, say 31-21.
And a cover. Let me correct you on one thing. I think you –
yeah, please.
If I misunderstood you, Oklahoma State played in the Big 12 championship against Baylor, not Iowa State.
No. I was saying Iowa State beat Oklahoma State
they
prior
did.
to that, though.
Yeah.
They then
back in October.
Correct. But still, that loss was detrimental to their college football playoff hopes. But yes, to be clear, they did play Baylor and lose to them in the Big 12 championship game.
Right. And look, Iowa State played at Baylor, lost by 2, lost at home to Iowa. Second game of the season by 10. They lost at West Virginia by 7 and lost at Texas Tech by 3 on the day Texas Tech just rolled it up on their defense. They had like almost 560 yards, I think. And they lost at Oklahoma by 7. So, again, all those games were competitive right down to the end. And Iowa State could easily have, 3 or 4 more wins instead of being 7-5. You could be looking at maybe a team that's 10-2 or 9-3 at the worst. So I think it's going to be an intriguing matchup between these two teams, to say the least, because of the changes. You get a chance to watch Matt Campbell, who's considered, of course, one of the top coaches in college football, a guy whose name is always mentioned when so-called bigger job opportunities open, but he's been very happy in Ames and seems like he wants to hang in there for a while longer. I believe they've extended his contract again, and he knows how to coach offense, that's for sure, and he knows how to develop quarterbacks. Even though his record at Iowa State, and Iowa State's got to be one of those tough jobs, of course. You're probably, not being from Iowa and knowing much about the state, I got to believe you're second fiddle in the state to the Hawkeyes. I got to believe the Cyclones are kind of second fiddle there to Iowa. And you're in the Big 12. You're kind of more in Big 10 country, but you're in the Big 12. And, you don't have a great history. And Campbell has, he's put together a solid program at Iowa State. He went 3-9 his first year in 2016. And then winning seasons ever since. 8 wins in 17, 8 wins the next year, dropped to 7 in 2019, had 9 wins last year and went 8-1 in the league and went to the Fiesta Bowl in the COVID campaign. And that's why everybody was so hyped up about Iowa State coming into this season. And again, those close losses, just set them back. I guess in talking about disappointing years, going into the season, thinking where Iowa State might, do something big this year like North Carolina, it has turned out to be a disappointing year. I'm sure they're disappointed to be in this game and not in a New Year's Day game or not in a playoff situation, considering when you had that quarterback and that running back returning and the big-time receiver and the tight ends and a big offensive line, knowing you're going to be really good on offense, and then you had the kind of defensive performance they had, you would have thought this team would be much farther along in a playoff situation. But again, losing those close games, caught up with them and put them in a situation where they are today. Which one wants to be there the most? I think Clemson. has done a good job of getting its mind right for this bowl game. After being used to going to the playoff, you wonder, okay, how's a team that's used to going to the playoff going to react to being in a non-playoff game? We won't know until kickoff, but everything we're hearing and seeing from the coaching staff and the players thus far has been positive about their approach. We'll be back.
On Point Weather is made possible by our friends at Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union on 107 The Point.
Then here's your weekend forecast. Not as cold tonight with mostly clear skies and a low dipping to 49. Tomorrow for Christmas, wonderful weather for the kids to play outside. 72 our high with mostly sunny skies. For Sunday, take back the gifts that Santa brought you didn't like with 74 degrees and sunshine. No rain until Tuesday. Merry Christmas. I'm Brian Leonard with your On Point local weather.
As an organ donor, your story doesn't have to end. The good in you can live on. In fact, you could save up to 8 lives and restore sight and health for many more. Sign up right now online as an organ, eye, and tissue donor. You'll be happy you did. And just maybe someone else will be happy too. Go to organdonor.gov. It saves lives. U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Health Resources and Services Administration.
With SRN News, I'm Jason Walker. Huge blaze has torched a crowded ferry in Bangladesh. At least 39 people have been killed, more than 70 injured. Authorities say it took 15 fire engines more than 2 hours to control the blaze. Rescue teams are searching for any possible survivors. The ferry carried some 800 passengers. Omicron surge of infections taking quite a toll on frontline workers around the nation. The effects are being felt in hospitals, police departments, supermarkets, and other critical operations struggling to maintain staffing levels. Some states have called in the National Guard to assist. United States will lift travel restrictions on 8 southern African countries that it imposed to try to blunt the spread of the latest Omicron variant. This is SRN News.
Everyone knows that here at The Point, we are all about supporting local businesses. We are all about local, local, local. You cannot get more local than my friend Greg McCoy and his business, Simplified Mortgage Solutions. Fran Halloran here. If you're buying a home or you're looking to refinance your current home, you owe it to yourself to call Greg. He is the real deal. You can expect Greg to treat you like you are his only client. You can expect Greg to scour the market to find you the best rate available. You can expect Greg to charge you a fair price for his work and his service. Why would you deal with some national company headquartered in who knows where when you can do business with Greg? Need further persuasion? Okay, I didn't even mention the good Greg does in our community by supporting local charities like Blue Star Mothers and Camp Chemo. Come on, you need to call Greg. Online at simplifiedmortgagesc.com, or you can call Greg at 803-722-6044. That's 722-6044.
Is that crack in your windshield or your house bothering you?
Have you been meaning to have it replaced but just can't find the time?
Call Absolute Glass, voted Lexington's best glass shop for 12 years in a row.
We repair and replace glass on all makes and models.
We're the only local high-end auto glass specialist in the Midlands, and we'll come to you to make the process quick and easy.
With new technologies and vehicles, we can recalibrate your vehicle back to new.
Visit AbsoluteGlassInc.com to learn more about our auto, home, and business glass services. Just remember, if you can see through it, we can do it.
Keep fighting the spread. Wear your face mask. Stay 6 feet apart. And get vaccinated. Join us and fight the spread. Visit scdhec.gov/vaxfax.
Hi, this is Taylor Metz.
And this is Roger Metz, your host of Woods and Water, South Carolina.
The time around Christmas and New Year's is one of our favorites to get outside together. No schedule, no stress, just go see what's out there.
Crisp mornings and cold nights will make you catch your breath, but there are lots of companies that make clothes for that, so there's no excuse for staying inside.
We hope you'll take some time this holiday season to get out there and discover the outdoors, and take someone with you to share the adventure.
We invite you to listen to Woods and Water, South Carolina in 2022 as we bring the outdoors to you every Saturday afternoon.
Right here on our home in the Midlands, 100.7 The Point.
Merry Christmas.
And Happy New Year.
Hey, Tiger fans, 2022 Clemson baseball season tickets are currently on sale. Coach Monty Lee and your Clemson Tiger baseball team open the season on February 18th, and you can be there for every game by purchasing your season tickets. Home series include matchups against Miami, Florida State, NC State, Georgia Tech, as well as our annual home games against South Carolina and Georgia, and many more. So log on to ClemsonTigers.com to purchase your Clemson baseball tickets and come back home to Clemson.
Hi, this is Michelle Arnold, your host for Travel Buzz, every Monday from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. on 100.7 The Point. We're here to make your travel dreams a reality. That's Travel Buzz every Monday morning at 9 on The Point.
All right, we're back on Sports Talk Christmas Eve 2021. Can you believe it? We'll be here all next week, New Year's Eve as well. Make your plans to party with Sports Talk. Party with Sports Talk next New Year's Eve. Party out 2021, party in 2022. We'll have plenty to talk about next Friday with all the football going on. We hope everything's going to move forward. So far, so good for most of the bowl games. Of course, little disruption with the Gator Bowl. I'm sure Wake Forest would have preferred to play Texas A&M, play the more high-profile team, get a more high-profile victory versus a losing Rutgers team. But it is what it is, as they say. And, of course, we had the game in Hawaii postponed, Hawaii and Memphis. Poor Memphis, man. They traveled all the way out to Hawaii to play a football game, do all that preparation, and then 22 and a half hours before kickoff, they get notified, nope, there's no game, too many players out for a variety of reasons on the Hawaii side.
Corn, if there's one place, though, you'd like to be when you're notified that your game is canceled, I would say they're in the perfect place for that, don't you?
That's one of them. I mean, being stuck in Myrtle Beach, let's say you came in for the Myrtle Beach Bowl, and for whatever reason, that got canceled. You know, being stuck in Myrtle Beach, you could be in a lot worse places, too.
That's
but I hear what
true.
you're saying.
Very, very good point. Anywhere on the coast, let's put it that way.
Yeah.
In a destination like that, life could be worse. Hate it for the guys, like you said, put in all that work, all that time. But at least they're not stuck up in Idaho at like the Potato Bowl or whatever.
Ugh. Remember the interview with Woody Dantzler the year Clemson played up there?
Miserable.
They got him on the bus. He was on the bus. They were either going to or from practice, and they said, "What, are you having a great time up here in this winter wonderland?" And he said, "No, I hate it. I hate the cold. I hate the snow. I hate the ice." But I think if I remember correctly, he went out and had a pretty good game that day for Clemson. I have to go back and check my my game notes, but I think he had a pretty good day that day for Clemson. Didn't he? Didn't they win that game?
They
Correct me
did.
if I'm
It
wrong.
was the Humanitarian Bowl, and they did win. I have it right here. They beat Louisiana Tech 49-24. And I just remember the field being covered. Everything was white. They played that in actual snow. It was, I think, downpouring before the game and a little bit during the game. It was kind of mixed in on that blue turf.
Mm-hmm.
Beyond that, I don't remember his exact performance, but remembering Woody Dantzler, I'm sure it was spectacular.
Yeah, you know, that is one guy, when you talk about the great quarterbacks in college football history, that's one guy who doesn't get enough conversation because he was one of the great quarterbacks in college football history. Runner, thrower. What was he, the first one to go over, 2,000 rushing yards, 2,000 passing yards in a career, something like that. He was fantastic, both as I remember a high school game, David Shelton and I doing the high school scoreboard back during his high school career at Orangeburg Wilkinson, where they ran up like OW had like 475 total yards in the game. He had 474 of them. He had like every yard but one, something incredible. He was a fantastic football player and a great guy to boot. Keith in Camden, you get the honor of maybe being the only caller tonight here on Christmas Eve on Sports Talk. Happy holidays to you, sir. Thank you for joining us.
Absolutely. Merry Christmas to both of you.
Yes, sir.
Phil, just a comment. We talked night before last. I want to make a comment and then follow up with a question. I'm kind of like you. We're gonna have our hands full. I'm not sure. I'm thinking North Carolina covers the spread. I'm thinking we need to score 30, and I don't think that's going to happen. But that's why the ball's not shaped round. So who knows? But let me ask you this: in the transfer portal for next year, we really need to get a left tackle, a linebacker, and a receiver. And the other night when we were talking, has there been any more comments concerning Satterfield from our conversation about his printed article? I'll hang up and listen, and y'all have a Merry Christmas.
Okay. Thank you very much. Nothing more that I've seen that we talked about the other night. And, when we have a chance to talk with Shane Beamer on Sunday, we'll bring that up and get his reaction to it. So I haven't seen anything else. It's anybody's guess. Who knows what Shane Beamer is thinking about his coaching staff, his offensive coordinator in particular, since he seems to be the guy under the greatest microscope right now on the coaching staff. Has Shane Beamer already made his mind up about what he's going to do with that position? Is there anything to make up? Maybe in his mind, there's nothing to do because he's not doing anything. He's going to stick with his guy. How much of a role did Marcus Satterfield have in attracting Spencer Rattler and Tanner Bailey to South Carolina? If he had a big role, then he should get some credit for that. If he had a big role and those guys really like him and want to play for him and in his offense, why do you want to turn over the apple cart, so to speak, by making a change? And who is out there? And I know there's more coaching changes to come. Things have gotten earlier because of the early signing period. A number of changes have been made. But, where can you go if you're Shane Beamer and you decide to make a change? Who can you pull from a better offensive situation? A coach who right now is looking for a job, maybe? A coach at a lower level who has a high-powered offense, but is it a pro-style offense that these quarterbacks that you're bringing in seem to prefer and want to run? I don't know. There's a lot of questions there, and the report there that we're referring to, raises a lot of questions and a lot of doubt about Marcus Satterfield remaining as South Carolina's offensive coordinator after the bowl game. The guy who wrote that is a USC insider. He's supposed to have the inside information, and usually his stuff is pretty spot on this kind of stuff when it comes to coaching moves in or out of the program. So it raises the question in my mind about the future. And the one thing that would kind of when it happened, when they got those two quarterbacks, I kind of thought from that okay, well, Marcus Satterfield is settled in and will be back as South Carolina's offensive coordinator. You wouldn't want to mess with things now because you got these two fine quarterbacks settling into the program. But who knows? Funny things happen in college football when it comes to coaching moves at any time of the year. Thank you for your phone call, Keith. We appreciate it. Oh, the portal John, as we like to call it. Yeah, South Carolina could use another offensive lineman, maybe one of those freshmen. Of course, you hate to stick a freshman out there at left tackle, but maybe one of those freshmen. Brubaker looks like a guy who might be ready to step in early on and help them, perhaps, or maybe one of the other linemen they have in. Can they find a quality offensive tackle in the portal, John, and convince him to come to South Carolina? That's possible. Another wide receiver, yeah. They could certainly use a blazer and a big playmaker on the offensive side. And a linebacker. Well, I'm not so sure unless you're just saying they need an upgrade. Sherrod Green, of course, is coming back. Brad Johnson may be back. We really don't know right now what the postseason roster is going to look like. I imagine a few days after the bowl game, starting over the New Year's weekend and into the next week, we'll be finding out more from players about their intent as to whether or not they plan to come back. Those who have that super senior year available to them still have another year of eligibility. Are they coming back, or are they moving on? You got Mo Kaba coming back at linebacker for sure. I mean, they might be okay at linebacker, to be quite honest with you, especially with Sherrod Green coming back. All right, thank you for your phone call. 888-898-2525, South Carolina Education Lottery lucky number. Let's go to go ahead, Pat. You want to jump in with something before we hear from Dabo Sweeney?
Just a question for you regarding what you're speaking about. First of all, I loved what Marcus Satterfield said in regard to what his pitch was to Spencer Rattler when he said, quote, everybody in the country thinks you stink as a quarterback and everyone thinks I stink. He went on to say that he framed his whole pitch to Rattler essentially as both guys having chips on their shoulder. And that, personally, I loved everything about that. But my question for you is, if the doomsday scenario happens and Beamer does let Satterfield go, whether it's before the game, after the game, whatever, and then you have a Spencer Rattler who may want to suddenly question his commitment to South Carolina, I'm curious if you know what the ramifications for that would be. Now, as a transfers do not sign letters of intent, but they do sign financial aid agreements with the school. It was reported last week that Rattler did sign his financial aid agreement with the University of South Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
If, for whatever reason now, he were to question that choice to come here, what are the ramifications? Does he have to sit out? Can he? Is it still viewed a transfer? What happens?
No. The financial aid papers only tie the school to you. It doesn't tie you to the school. That's why you've seen in the past some high school players, some hotshot high school players would only sign those papers and wouldn't sign the LOI because the LOI supposedly ties the player to the school. But in today's world, even if you've signed an LOI, you get to the school, or even before, you can put your name in the transfer portal, John, and start all over again. And I don't know, does that count as your one-time free transfer, even though you haven't stepped foot on campus yet? I don't know how the rules come into play there. They're kind of making them up as they go along here. But no, he would, if that were to happen and he decided he wanted to go somewhere else, he could, if he could find somewhere else to go, and he probably could, there would be nothing holding him back because the financial aid papers do not bind you to the school.
Okay, so
as the player.
Follow up to that then, do you think that would weigh enough in Coach Shane Beamer's mind to maybe want to give Satterfield an extra year to show what he can do with a quarterback like Rattler, with another year of people learning the playbook? Do you think that would be incentive enough for Beamer to want to hold on to Satterfield so as to hold on to these great transfers?
Yeah. Well, again, I've said many times on the show, I don't think it's fair to judge Satterfield as an offensive coordinator with the hand that was dealt to him this season, with the injuries, and the offensive players he had to work with. I mean, it was an offense that was already in disarray when he got there, and he had to work with what they had. I mean, they got a transfer quarterback from an SES program who turned out to give them a spark in some games after he eventually got a chance to get on the field. But there was a lot of holes in that offense that he inherited, and the holes got bigger and bigger as the season went on. Is he totally to blame for that? I don't think so. I don't think you can hold him totally accountable for all of that. Though, as the offensive coordinator, it says under his name, the Gamecocks averaged 21 points per game, and their offense ranked 16th in the country or something really poor like that. That does fall under his name, and thus he is ultimately responsible for it. As far as his comments about being the most hated offensive coordinator in the country, I mean, that's what I want to find out from Beamer. Why would Marcus Satterfield say that publicly in his press conference this week? Is that because of what he reads on Twitter, or what he reads on the message boards, or what the folks in their websites write about him? I mean, the only place you see that, I haven't seen anybody in the mainstream media, newspapers, and I don't know about other sports talk shows, what they're saying, but the only place you see that stuff's on Twitter and on the websites that cover the Gamecocks, where some of the writers, I've only really seen one writer. Tony Morrell's been really the only writer on a website, I think, that's gone hard after Marcus Satterfield and suggested that he needs to be replaced. And this is a drum that he's been beating for, the better part of, 3 months, since about halfway through the season. Have others suggested it? Perhaps, but that's the one that sticks out in my mind. So I'm wondering why he would say that. Was he kind of saying that tongue in cheek? Was he saying it to create some empathy, or does he really feel like people believe he's a horrible offensive coordinator, and people hate him as a result of it? Or, as Morrell has written, he's a cancer inside the offensive meeting room, that people don't like him and that he's not getting along with other coaches. This is what's being written. So we'll find out maybe on Sunday. Let's hit the break, and we'll come back and hear from Dabo Swinney after the Tigers practice from this morning. They are in Orlando. They've gotten things underway as they've made the move from Clemson to Orlando. Worked out this morning for about 90 minutes. We'll do the same thing tomorrow afternoon, and then practice again on Sunday. And we'll hear from the Tigers head man when we come back from this break on Sports Talk Christmas Eve. Glad to have you with us. Back in a moment.
COVID-19 booster shots are now available for all South Carolinians 16 and older. Increase your protection from COVID-19 by getting your booster shot. Learn more at scdhec.gov/COVID-19 booster. Keep fighting the spread. Wear your face mask. Stay 6 feet apart. And get vaccinated. Join us and fight the spread. Visit scdhec.gov/vaxfax.
Hey, folks, mortgage rates have dipped to their lowest levels in recent history. And with home values up in many areas, now may be the perfect time to refinance your home. Whether you're looking to lower your monthly payments, free up cash for home improvements, or just pay off your home faster, a quick call to the one and only Stuart Wingo of Ameris Bank could save you money. If you're looking for competitive rates and exceptional service, call Stuart Wingo. 803-319-1777. That's 803-319-1777. You will save money just like I have so many times over the years. You can also visit him, amerisbank.com/Stuart Wingo. Stuart Wingo, the man with the plan for all your mortgage needs.
Hi, I'm State Treasurer Curtis Loftus, and I've got a great gift idea that requires zero shopping, the gift of college savings. Future Scholar, South Carolina's 529 college savings plan makes it easy. Grandparents, friends, and family can all contribute to a Future Scholar account and know that they're providing a gift that will last a lifetime. If you're looking for the perfect gift this holiday season, look no further. Learn more about the smart, easy way to save and give this holiday season at futurescholar.com.
All right, today Clemson got on the practice field in Orlando getting ready for Iowa State on Wednesday night in the Cheez-It Bowl. And with the Tigers, the media, of course, not there yet. Most of the media will start arriving tomorrow afternoon, tomorrow evening, and they've got the press conference there with the coordinators and the players on Sunday morning. But with the Tigers today, Ross Taylor, the assistant AD for athletic communications, and he did a one-on-one interview and distributed that to the media with Dabo Swinney. So here is that interview with Dabo Swinney and Ross Taylor.
Coach, first practice down here in Orlando. What was kind of the focus of today, and what did you come away with practice with?
Well, first of all, how about this beautiful day we got? Unbelievable. It's like 80 plus down here, and just really thankful to have the opportunity to be down here in Florida and have a great practice facility. But the biggest focus today was just, this is kind of our what we call mental Monday, just kind of get our mind right. Obviously, we're not starting from scratch with our plan like we would on a normal Monday, but really just kind of picking up. They've had about 4 days of no football, so just getting them back focused and locked in on the task at hand. Guys did a great job getting down here, really proud of them. We're off to a good start, and tomorrow is obviously Christmas, so Merry Christmas to everyone out there. And for the Tigers, it's a Tuesday practice, so we'll have a little celebration brunch in the morning, and then we'll get the full pads on, have ramp it up a little bit tomorrow. But again, got a good plan. This week's about really polishing and taking ownership of it, the details of it. And I thought we got off to a good start today.
You mentioned the practices before the team got here to Orlando. How have you felt like the team is prepared thus far?
It's been great. There's been a lot of energy, a lot of enthusiasm, a lot of excitement. We went 7 straight days in Clemson, and obviously had new pieces and things like that. And guys have really done a good job of leading, and again, just practicing with purpose. And that's what it takes to be successful in the postseason. We're 7-2 in our last 9 bowl games, and that's one thing I told them. It's because of how we've prepared and how we've practiced. Hopefully when this one's over, we can be 8-2.
So you mentioned practice in the afternoon, but what will Christmas morning look like for the Tigers?
Yeah, well, Santa will show up. I think they'll have some stockings, and we'll have a big brunch from like 10 to 11:30, and be a very festive environment and those type of thing. I think the players, they got their little secret pal. They'll swap some gifts and have a little fun with each other, and then we'll have meetings about noon and get on with the day. It'll be like I said, a Tuesday practice for us, full pads and ramp it up.
All right, Dabo Sweeney from earlier today will have coverage of the practice tomorrow and the post-practice interviews that Ross will do, I think, with some players tomorrow. We'll have it on our website for you, sportstalksc.com. Our poll question of the week, got one more day to vote. What bothers you the most about today's world of college sports? Almost 36%, 35.9%. Say the transfer portal. We're at 516 votes. 35.9% say the transfer portal, John. 29.5% name, image, likeness. 24% say nothing, it's all good. And 10.7% say coaches taking other jobs bother them the most. Let's see what else we've got in terms of some of the top stories of the day to pass along. We'll do recruiting, of course. We'll have recruiting for you coming up in our next hour. And just checking through some of my notes, most of them are related to recruiting, so we'll save that. North Carolina, by the way, I'm not into the uniform thing. Whatever you put on is fine. North Carolina unveiled today that it plans to wear North Carolina throwback uniforms for the Mayo Bowl against the Gamecocks. So that means that ugly color of blue that they like to wear, and their blue and white shoes, their blue tops, I guess. Let's see. Blue helmet, Carolina. They say Carolina blue jersey, and white breeches. That is what they'll be wearing. Some folks in Idaho. Boise State is playing in the Arizona Bowl, and Barstool Sports has attached its name to this bowl game as a sponsor, and that's going to be the only way to watch this particular game is through a Barstool stream through one of their social media platforms, their website, their app, whatever. And you got some folks there in Idaho who do not like the fact that Boise State, the school, is playing in a bowl game associated with Barstool Sports because of just the type of programming and organization, I guess, that Barstool Sports has been, and with their founder, Dave Portnoy, and some of the things that he's been through. They see this as an unsavory relationship between a bowl game and this particular organization. Now, you can look at it however you want to, but the major newspapers there in Idaho have been very critical of the university at Boise State for allowing the team to participate in a bowl game that has a sponsorship with Barstool Sports. So, you can determine there how you feel about that. Personally, I am no fan of Barstool Sports, and happen to think that that is a form of sports media that is a black mark on us all. I mean, just drags us all down with the way they approach their way of talking about sports, or I'm not even going to say reporting sports. The little bit I've ever listened to them, has nothing really to do with sports. But anyway, some of the leading writers in the state of Idaho and leading opinion makers in newspapers have taken exception to the fact that Boise State agreed to play in a bowl game sponsored by that organization. Just something else to think about here during this bowl season, as you got COVID issues to deal with. Now you got this particular situation with a sponsor to deal with. Should you refuse to accept a bowl bid because of the sponsor arrangement? We'll be back after the top of the hour break.
The only afternoon local talk radio in Columbia is the Afternoon Drive with Kev. It's all about you. It's your phone calls. It's my challenging topics. All the news, traffic, and weather weekdays, 4 p.m. on The Point.
Press that button, home stew.
WQXL Columbia, W264DF.
From the Bart Fireside Studio, the solution for keeping you warm this winter.
This is 107 The Point.
News this hour from townhall.com. I'm Keith Peters. Airlines are suddenly canceling hundreds of flights during this holiday season. Correspondent Rita Foley reports.
Lufthansa says it had a big buffer of extra workers for the holidays, but so many pilots are calling in sick, it's had to cancel some transatlantic flights. A massive rise in sick leave, it says. Though it can't say for sure whether COVID is responsible because it hasn't been told about the sort of illnesses. But Delta and United Airlines say they did have to cancel some Christmas Eve flights because of Omicron. United saying the spike in Omicron cases this week has had a direct impact on our flight crews and the people who run our operation. I'm Rita Foley.
The surge in coronavirus cases driven by the Omicron variant is the latest blow to hospitals, police departments, supermarkets, and other critical operations struggling to maintain staffing levels. Correspondent Ben Thomas reports.
In New York, about 2,700 police officers were absent earlier this week, twice the number who are ill on an average day. Governments have taken steps to help ease the strain across a range of jobs considered essential, from truckers and janitors to childcare providers and train conductors. Some states have called in the National Guard to help boost shorthanded hospitals and nursing homes. Guardsmen serve meals, transport patients, and do other non-clinical work. Still, nurses and others worry that continued staffing woes will put the public at greater risk and increase burnout and fatigue among their ranks. I'm Ben Thomas.
A COVID-19 outbreak has taken place on a South Florida-based cruise ship for the third time this week. At the same time, the number of coronavirus cases in Florida has hit its highest level since the start of the pandemic. The Carnival Freedom cruise ship was affected in this particular case. More on these stories available at townhall.com.
First, we decide where we want to go. Then we need to know the best way to get there. Hi, my name's Adam Barada. I'm the owner of Advantage Gold. We're the highest rated precious metals firm in the country. We teach people how to own physical gold and silver. Now, we've won the Best of TrustLink Award 4 years in a row because we educate our clients on how to buy gold and silver the right way. We don't pay celebrity spokespeople millions of dollars. We'd rather pass that value on to you. Call 800-900-8000 and speak with one of our experts. We'll send you a free gold kit along with my latest #1 national best-selling book, The Great Devaluation. Call 800-900-8000. That's 800-900-8000. Get the best information, the best process, the best service, the best value. Call Advantage Gold at 800-900-8000. Call 800-900-8000.
A Moscow court has fined Google nearly $100 million over its failure to delete content banned by local law.
The Tagansky District Court ruled that Google repeatedly neglected to remove the banned content and ordered the company to pay an administrative fine of about 7.2 billion rubles. Google said it would study the court documents and then decide on its next steps. Russian authorities have steadily ramped up pressure on social media platforms, accusing them of failing to purge content related to drug abuse, weapons, and explosives.
Correspondent Jeremy House reporting. Earlier this year, the authorities criticized tech companies for not deleting announcements about unsanctioned protests in support of jailed Kremlin critic Alexei Navalny. At least 2 people have died and 20 are missing after a migrant boat capsized in the Aegean Sea, bringing to at least 16 the combined death toll from 3 separate accidents. News and analysis at townhall.com. I'm Keith Peters.
On Point Weather is made possible by our friends at Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union on 107 The Point.
And here's your weekend forecast. Not as cold tonight with mostly clear skies and a low dipping to 49. Tomorrow for Christmas, wonderful weather for the kids to play outside. 72 our high with mostly sunny skies. For Sunday, take back the gifts that Santa brought you didn't like with 74 degrees and sunshine. No rain until Tuesday. Merry Christmas. I'm Brian Leonard with your On Point local weather.
WQXL Columbia, W264DF.
From the Bart Fireside Studio, the solution for keeping you warm this winter.
This is 107 The Point. Ooh, I like when you press that one.
Welcome back to Sports Talk on the Sports Talk Media Network. You can reach the guys with the South Carolina Education Lottery lucky number, 888-898-2525. That's 888-898-2525. Now back to Phil, Chris, and Pat with the second hour of Sports Talk on the Sports Talk Media Network.
All right, welcome back, everybody. It is Sports Talk live on this Christmas Eve of 2021. Hope you're having a great evening heading into the big day tomorrow. Enjoy it, and have a great weekend with everybody. Be sure to follow along on our website over the weekend as we cover things, sportstalksc.com. And, of course, we'll be back at it on Monday covering things from the locations of Charlotte and Orlando with the bowl games coming up next week. Things really start to get interesting in the bowl season with the games coming up starting next week in particular as we roll our way towards the national championship games and or the playoffs and then the national championship game. And we'll be talking about our picks for some of these bowl games coming up. We talked about South Carolina's game and Clemson's game and what the lines look like right now. What is coming up? Well, tomorrow you've got Ball State and Georgia State. Georgia State's a 6-point favorite. Then on the 27th, Western Michigan, Nevada. Western Michigan's a 7-point favorite. East Carolina, Boston College on the 29th. And BC is a 3-point favorite. Then you've got Houston, Auburn on December 28th. Auburn's a 2.5-point favorite. And again, that game will feature some guys that will be missing on the offensive side in particular. Of course, Bo Nix is out as the Auburn quarterback, and Houston will be without, was it their best running back or their quarterback who opted out? Somebody big in their offense opted out. Louisville and Air Force on the 28th. Louisville's a point favorite. And Texas Tech and Mississippi State, well, this should be a lot of fun. And this should be a boy. I'm almost surprised the over-under on this is 58.5. Wouldn't you have expected to be more like in the 70s? Mississippi State's a 9.5-point favorite. I would have thought that over-under would be more like 65 or 70. NC State and UCLA on the 28th, and NC State's a point favorite. West Virginia, Minnesota on the 28th. Minnesota's a 4.5-point favorite there. Virginia and SMU, they're playing on the 29th. And Virginia, despite everything that's gone on there, is a 2.5-point favorite. Maryland, Virginia Tech on the 29th. Maryland's a 3.5-point favorite. Oregon and Oklahoma on the 29th. Oklahoma is favored by 4.5. Two teams with new coaches. A lot of turmoil within a lot of these teams when you get to the bowl games. Purdue and Tennessee on the 30th. And Tennessee's a 5-point favorite. Pittsburgh and Michigan State. Michigan State is this is where your quarterback leaving Pittsburgh. But then again, the running back left Michigan State. Pittsburgh opened as a 3.5-point favorite. Michigan State is now a 2.5-point favorite. Arizona State, Wisconsin. You've got Wisconsin as a touchdown favorite. Washington State, Miami. That's still a pick 'em. Georgia, Michigan. Georgia opened as a 7.5-point favorite, is still a 7.5-point favorite. And I'm assuming that Stetson Bennett's going to be the starting quarterback, Pat, for Georgia. I know JT Daniels had some COVID type issues earlier in the week, despite the fact that he was exposed. Stetson Bennett was exposed by the Alabama defense in the SEC championship game. I've heard nothing different indicating a change in quarterback at Georgia.
Yeah, I have not either. And you have to think right now with JT Barrett being in COVID protocol right now, you have to wonder whether he will even, first of all, be able to practice enough to play. And I have not seen for sure whether he is symptomatic or asymptomatic, but if he's unable to practice, is he still able to at least keep himself in shape privately, which you just always have to wonder about conditioning and repetition. Is he able to still get out there and run every day to stay in shape? Is he able to throw X amount of balls per day? Is he still watching? He's certainly still watching tape, but I would certainly think Stetson Bennett would be the starter at this point, but I have not seen anything confirm one way or the other. No.
All right, Boise State's 8-point favorite over Central Michigan. Alabama's 13.5-point favorite over Cincinnati. Rutgers, Wake Forest. Wake Forest is a 14-point favorite over Rutgers. 14-point favorite over Rutgers. Now, interesting.
That seems low to me.
Well, I'm looking at the opening line here. I guess when that game was just put together yesterday, did Rutgers open as a favorite, 4.5? But now the consensus is Wake Forest 14. I'm just reading across the lines here. Arkansas and Penn State. Penn State's a point favorite. Oklahoma State, Notre Dame. Notre Dame's a 1.5. Kentucky and Iowa. Kentucky's a 3-point favorite. Utah, Ohio State. Ohio State 6.5-point favorite. Baylor, Ole Miss. Ole Miss is favored by a point. And LSU, Kansas State. Kansas State's favored by 3.5. The FCS National Championship game, Montana State and North Dakota State on January the 8th. And you've got North Dakota State as an 8-point favorite there. Okay. Back to the phones we go. 888-898-2525. South Carolina Education Lottery lucky number. Here on Sports Talk, we're lucky enough to have Andy in Columbia joining us next. Hello, Andy. How are you, sir?
Mr. Korn.
Yes,
Good
sir.
evening.
Good evening, sir.
Question for you. Are you part of the tribe that believes in their traditional Christmas meal?
What, Chinese?
Of course. What else would I be talking about?
Well, I mean, yeah, because that's typically all you can find, you know. So I haven't, right? we haven't made plans for, tomorrow's dining yet. I'm trying to get past tonight's dining first. But yeah, like everybody else, Chinese food is usually the menu of the day on Christmas Day for us.
I just wanted to make sure you brought up the correct Jewish way. So that's what I was checking on that. A question regarding Rutgers coming into the, what they call it, the Power Six, whatever, big bowls.
New Year's Day 6.
Yes. Yeah, so
but this is not a New Year's Day 6 bowl. This is the Gator Bowl.
Oh, is it the Gator Bowl they're going? Okay. It's not.
Yeah, they're going to Gator Bowl. Yeah.
Okay. The money now. They're going to get the full allotment of monies going to the Big Ten now, right? Correct, in Rutgers.
I've seen some people suggest that Wake Forest get a bigger cut of that. I kind of doubt that Rutgers would have agreed to play if they didn't get their fair share, and the Big Ten wouldn't have gone along, I would assume, without getting their fair share. I've seen nothing to say that they're not getting their proper cut.
So A&M's going to get nothing. So that means A&M will fall into the category of what piece of the pie. They'll still get the same even slice of the pie that any other SEC team will get. Will that be correct, or will they be penalized because they're costing the conference money because of their COVID issue?
That's an excellent point. That is an excellent point that I don't know the answer to. I'll have to do some digging next week. Or maybe after the holidays when people come back from the holidays. Do you get penalized? I mean, should you be penalized for something that you did not bring on yourself, I guess? I mean, COVID, how do you penalize somebody for coming down with as a team with an illness like that?
Aren't
they
you
were
still
following the
costing the conference?
protocols. Beg your pardon?
You're still costing the conference. How much
Yeah.
is the payout for the conference for the Gator Bowl?
I'd have to
Do you
go
happen
back
to
and
know?
look at that.
Or-
have to go back and look. But yeah, you're right. I would imagine they're not going to get any of that money now.
Yeah. So I mean, should they be like a Vanderbilt who doesn't play and still get a piece of the pie, or should they be a team that shouldn't get any piece of any pie, or be a little bit less because they cost the conference money?
The Gator Bowl payout is $5.35 million.
Okay, so that's about $500,000 per conference team. No, a little bit less. About $400,000 per conference team. So they're costing us $400,000, meaning South Carolina.
If your math is correct, and that's how it's divided
About
up.
$350. Maybe.
I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not sure what their formula is for dividing up bowl money among conference teams. Does the team itself get a greater percentage of that bowl money, and then the rest is broken up among the other teams, or is it evenly distributed? I'd have to go and look up their policy about that.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering too, because like someone like in Alabama who wins a national championship, should they get the same cut of the pie? I mean, should South Carolina and Vanderbilt get the same cut of the pie that Alabama gets?
See, I don't think that's the case. I think the team that plays in it gets a bigger share. That would just be my guess. Yeah.
That's what I would think too, but I'm not sure. But I'm still curious if they're going to be penalized because of this regarding the conference payout with the bowl situation.
Now, what I'm trying to figure out is, I'm trying to read some stuff here. It says the Gator Bowl payout is $5.35 million. Is that per team, or is that the total payout that's split between the two teams? I'm trying to figure that out. When they say the payout is $5.35 million, I'm trying to discern if that's per team, or is that the total payout that the team split? So it may not be. Let's see. If it can't find one of the payout of more than $5 million to the schools would go away. The $5 million. The Gator Bowl is looking for a super opponent. If it can't find one, the payout of more than $5 million to the schools, plural, would go away. So I'm thinking you split that 5.35 between the two schools.
Yeah, because they don't say per school; they say schools is plural.
Yeah.
So cut what we're talking about in half, so it's hardly anything then. Talking about only 175 or
they spend
less,
more on that on toilet
in
paper.
the page of athletics, as we know, that's nothing.
They spend more on that on toilet paper for Williams-Brice Stadium. So
exactly, or
they
the buffet that they serve corn and all the other media people during football games.
And they've cut back on that, unfortunately, from what I understand.
Yeah, right.
That's been one of the cost saving areas, I understand. So,
okay.
Well, listen, you have a great weekend. Enjoy yourself doing whatever you do, and we'll talk to you perhaps next week.
You too, Corn. You take care, and
you too.
Enjoy your Chinese tomorrow.
Yeah, man. Thank you very much. Appreciate you. Good hearing from you. All right. Thank you for the call. 888-898-2525. Real quick before the break, Pat, you had something to say about Barstool's bowl game, and some thoughts on that from what you know.
Oh, yeah, just wanted to add a few things. And yes, Barstool has had their share of controversies over the year. It is, for our listeners that are not aware, it is classified as a satirical sports and men's lifestyle publication. But their owner, Dave Portnoy, he has done quite a few outlandish things over the year. He originally started in downtown Boston handing out these small little, almost like the free times in Columbia, if you're familiar with that. He would he would hand those out on street corners to try to get it going. It's kind of amazing what it's blown up to be now. But I just would like to point out, last I saw, had over 6,000 collegiate athletes signed up to name, image, and likeness deals with Barstool, all receiving minimum $100 a month, which I know doesn't sound like much, but some of them make tens of thousands of dollars a month. What they have done is they essentially give a platform to all these 6,000+ student athletes. They give them a platform to share their stories, to share their social media posts. Anything that they tag Barstool in from them could then have the potential to blow up, and they're then paid per click. And again, it may be 5 or 6 cents per click, but if you get 1 million people clicking on that post, that number can grow very, very quickly. It can exponentially turn into quite a sum of money. Now, the fact that they are not actually broadcasting in regular television, they're doing it strictly through their platform, is a little different. So that'll be yet to be determined how many people actually watch that. But I just want to show the positives that Barstool has brung to collegiate athletics. They are allowing each of those student athletes to have a platform. They also raised over $40 million for the Barstool Fund, which Dave Portnoy started at the beginning. I think it was in April of 2020. And that money has all been evenly distributed to small businesses across the country. So they have done a lot of goodwill for small businesses across the country, as well as for student athletes. So yes, they have done some negative, but they've certainly done a lot of positive as well.
Listen, the guy is a business genius. I give him credit for that. Like you said, he's made millions. He's given away millions. That's all well and good. It doesn't fit me. I'm not a listener. I would, they were on XM radio for a while, and I'd occasionally tune in just to hear what they were talking about, and it didn't interest me at all because it had nothing to do with sports, to my liking, but maybe I'm a different animal that likes to listen to sports in a different way than the people that they would attract. But obviously they've attracted a huge audience, and they've made themselves into a major company, media company, whatever you want to call it, through the way that they've done it. It's just not for me, and I can see why if you're on the editorial board of a big newspaper in a state and your state-supported school is playing in a bowl game, it would be sort of like back in the old days if Playboy were sponsoring a bowl game. I could see the people back in maybe the 60s, 70s, 80s, the newspaper editorial board saying, how dare we send our children to play in a bowl game sponsored by Playboy. See what I'm saying? So kind of the same thing here. And I just brought it up because the two big newspapers in the state of Idaho wrote editorials criticizing Boise State for agreeing to play in a bowl game sponsored by that organization.
And that is fair. And one last thing, you'll giggle at this, Corn, to show just how controversial they may be, and some people wanting to distance themselves from Barstool. A few years ago, I believe it was 4, maybe 5 years ago now, they had a contract with ESPN where they were going to do a late night 30-minute television program called Barstool Van Talk. They have actually the #1 rated sports podcast in the planet, 4 years running, called Pardon My Take. Well, the two hosts of that were then going to have this 30-minute segment on ESPN where essentially they have an old conversion van where they cram guests into the back seat of that with them. It was canceled after the very first episode. Scott Van Pelt was their guest, and it was essentially 3 grown men in a tiny little bench seat like you would have in the back of a van. And they did an interview just like that and talked about all kinds of crazy topics. But again, it received so much flack that ESPN pulled the plug after 1 episode of it. But there were also many of us that loved it. But to your point, to what these newspapers are pointing out is sometimes you have to make a decision on your own whether you want to be affiliated with somebody like that. So I certainly respect that opinion as well. My goal was simply to also share some of the positives.
Absolutely. All right, let's hit the break here on Sports Talk on this Christmas Eve. We'll come back, and we're going to hear from the he's going to be the guy calling the defense, but he's got a co-coordinator with him in Mickey Kahn, Wes Goodwin, who's come out of the shadows of the Clemson football staff to be now the front man, along with Mickey Kahn. But because he's calling the plays and calling the schemes, he is the front man of the Clemson defense. You'll hear from him for the first time on Sports Talk coming up.
Touchstone Energy cooperative members save more on electricity, and members save more on insurance, groceries, healthcare, restaurants, travel, concerts, and sporting events through Co-op Connections. Touchstone Energy is an alliance of the member-owned electric cooperatives, and as a member, the power is yours. Experience the power of co-op membership with Touchstone Energy and find out how much you can save on electricity and a whole lot more at touchstoneenergy.com.
Parents ask, what's the best way to save for college? I'm State Treasurer Curtis Loftus, and my answer is always open a Future Scholar 529 college savings account. It's easy. You can get started online with any amount. It's flexible to adapt to your child's college dreams, and you can deduct 100% of your contributions from the South Carolina state tax return. So what are you waiting for? Go to futurescholar.com and see why it's the smart, easy way to save for college. futurescholar.com.
Relax on and off the field with Founders Federal Credit Union. With services like Founders Online and the Founders app, you'll enjoy all the perks of a big bank with local personalized service. If you're looking for low rates, look to Founders. Not a member? Joining Founders Federal Credit Union is easy. Visit relaxjoinfounders.com or one of our more than 30 office locations to see if you qualify for membership. Services require credit evaluation. Terms and conditions apply. Founders Federal Credit Union is federally insured by NCUA.
Well, let's go to Danny in Florence for another phone call before we get to anything else here on this Christmas Eve of 2021. Danny, welcome into Sports Talk. Good to have you with us.
Hey, Phil, I just wanted to clarify something for me.
Mhm.
I was to an event in my church, had the radio on, and they had some people being interviewed, ruling that the NBA for the national championship, that if anybody was COVID positive, they decide the winner by forfeiture. Why would they penalize the whole team because somebody?
Okay, you're breaking up on us really badly there. I think you were asking about what came out from the college football playoff the other day about what to do if there are COVID issues on a team in the national semifinals and the championship game. Is that correct?
Yeah, they said they decided by forfeiture. So.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. For the two national semifinal games, if a team is not able to play, then it's a forfeit, and the other team will advance to the championship game. And when it comes to the championship game, if somebody becomes ill, a team doesn't have enough players to play, they are willing to extend the date of that championship game, move it back another week or so to give that team a chance to recover. They're not doing that for the semifinal games. If you come up short and can't play, then you forfeit and the other team moves on.
Well, what's saying then is you can play if somebody's positive, just if a whole load of people are positive, right?
Yeah, I mean, you have to be, down to a certain number of players on your roster. And I guess a certain number of players in positions. Like if you're down to, I'm just throwing a number out there. If you have only one offensive tackle who can play, if you have a position group that has been just decimated and can't play, or you don't have enough, I mean, that could cause you not to play in the ball game. I think if you take a hard hit at a particular position like that, but by and large, it comes down to the minimum number of scholarship players available for you to play in that game. I'd have to go back and look and see what that number is. But if you hit that number or drop below that number, then you can't field a team and you have to forfeit.
Well, I remember what happened at the Florida State game and they played the game, but I didn't think they came up positive for that game.
Again, you're breaking up. You're referring to the Clemson game down there at Florida State in 2020 that was not played?
Right.
Yeah. I don't know. Did Florida State ever say what they got down to in terms of numbers? Were they questioned about that? Did they reach the minimum back then? I think the ACC had a minimum number requirement in 2020 that you had to meet. And also, I think position number requirement that you had to meet.
Well, yeah, they didn't. Clemson got down there, though.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, you're exactly right. Yeah. Listen, I was there. That was a 12 o'clock kickoff, and I woke up. In fact, my wife called me about 9 o'clock that morning, and she said, "What you doing?" And I said, "Well, I'm getting ready to go to the stadium for the football game." And her response was, "What football game?" And I said, "The Clemson Florida State game," because I hadn't heard it. And she said, "Well, they're not playing." And I said, "What are you talking about?" And then she told me the news. And then I started, checking around. I said, "Well, doggone, that really stinks." That
I
really
think
stinks.
that one because he thought they had lit him.
Well, I mean, that's what Clemson thinks.
Yeah.
Or thought. That's what Dabo thought. You go back and look at his comments. He thought that, they could have played, but hey, how can you prove it, How can you prove it? All right, thank you for the phone call. Have a great holiday. Merry Christmas to you. If both teams in the semifinal are unable to play, the game will be declared a no contest, and the winner of the other semifinal will be declared the national champion. See, that could happen. If 3 of the 4 playoff semifinal teams are left unavailable due to the issues, the lone remaining squad would be deemed national champion. So they got all kind of plans here to crown somebody if COVID were to be a major issue. We'll be back.
On Point Weather is made possible by our friends at Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union on 107 The Point.
Then here's your weekend forecast. Not as cold tonight with mostly clear skies and a low dipping to 49. Tomorrow for Christmas, wonderful weather for the kids to play outside. 72 our high with mostly sunny skies. For Sunday, take back the gifts that Santa brought you didn't like with 74 degrees and sunshine. No rain until Tuesday. Merry Christmas. I'm Brian Leonard with your On Point local weather.
When I served in Iraq and Afghanistan, my buddies and I would do anything for each other. That's important whether you're in a firefight or fighting to regain your life. When I came home injured, there are people I can count on, like DAV.
DAV, Disabled American Veterans, stands behind America's veterans to make their transition back home easier with free services and help getting the benefits they've earned. Help us fulfill the promise to our men and women who served. Go to DAV.org to learn more.
With SRN News, I'm Keith Peters reporting. Tulane University in New Orleans is delaying the start of its spring semester because of the latest surge of coronavirus cases. And another private school says students must get booster shots before returning. The Times-Picayune, the New Orleans Advocate, says Tulane has put the semesters beginning back 1 week to January 25th. The report also says Loyola University is keeping its January 18th start for most classes and January 10th at its law school, but requiring both booster shots and proof of a negative coronavirus test. Loyola says students not yet eligible for a booster must get one 6 months after their basic vaccination. State health officials estimate the Omicron variant accounted for more than 84% of all coronavirus infections diagnosed in the week that ended December 18th.
Dave Ramsey here. Do you want your money to work for you rather than you working for your money? Go see my friends at Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union. They're not a mega bank and have been serving the Midlands since 1936, offering good old-fashioned customer service and free services. They'll look out for your financial well-being. With 14 locations, check them out today at palmettocitizens.org. Federally insured by the NCUA.
I'm home. Why is it so cold in here?
I've got bad news.
What?
Our heat is out.
You're kidding me.
No, but there's a bright side. Our contractor says Dominion Energy offers rebates up to $500 if we upgrade to Energy Star qualified equipment.
That's nice, but almost sounds too good to be true.
No, I checked it out. See for yourself at DominionEnergySC.com.
Where?
DominionEnergySC.com.
Certain restrictions apply.
If you're like me, you're sick and tired of seeing these old TV stars, game show hosts, these athletes telling you how to save money on your Medicare and on your health insurance. These national toll-free numbers are overwhelming us. It's not that people don't need the service. They need good local customer service, not big box toll-free numbers. See, I work directly with Tim Hanberry right here at Medicare Blueprint in the Midlands. When it comes to my family, I want the best family plan. I'm not even on Medicare, but my mom is. So here's what I do want. Someone local to serve as my advisor on the plans and choices that I have, and someone to help mom with her Medicare. I want someone to help me pick the right plan, save me as much money as possible by knowing all the rules of the game. Medicare Blueprint starts the process with you. They will see it through. They answer all your questions. They call you back. It's the same folks helping you start to finish. Tim and his team are independent. They fight for you, not the insurance company. Online, it's MedicareBlueprint.com or call them 708-7398.
Hey, it's Jay from the Melting Pot. One of the greatest gifts you can give your loved ones, family members, and best friends this holiday season is your time. And unlike other restaurants, you're not considered a table turn. We celebrate your time with us and each other when you come in and break bread together. We recognize a meal together these days is not just a photo op, but a real-life memory. We love to brag about our food, but we also love to brag about the memories you allow us to be part of. Merry Christmas from the Melting Pot, 1410 Colonial Life Boulevard.
Hi, this is Taylor Metz.
And this is Roger Metz, your host of Woods and Water, South Carolina.
The time around Christmas and New Year's is one of our favorites to get outside together. No schedule, no stress, just go see what's out there.
Crisp mornings and cold nights will make you catch your breath, but there are lots of companies that make clothes for that, so there's no excuse for staying inside.
We hope you'll take some time this holiday season to get out there and discover the outdoors and take someone with you to share the adventure.
We invite you to listen to Woods and Water, South Carolina in 2022 as we bring the outdoors to you every Saturday afternoon.
Right here on our home in the Midlands, 100.7 The Point.
Merry Christmas.
And Happy New Year.
Now, just going back to Danny's question before we hit the break, looking at the requirements from the SEC, for example, for 2020, teams had to have 53 scholarship players available, including a quarterback, 7 offensive linemen, and 4 defensive linemen. Those were the guidelines the league announced. If a team could not meet those requirements, it could play anyway. Otherwise, the game would be rescheduled or declared a no contest. And those thresholds mirrored those announced by the Big 12 last year, with one major difference. The Big 12's minimum included walk-on players. The SEC only scholarship players. I think the ACC's was along those same lines. I'd have to go back and see if I could find the ACC's notes on that. But that sort of gives you an idea of what the requirement was last year. And I'm kind of thinking it falls along those same lines for bowl games this year, Pat.
Yeah, and just to piggyback on what you're saying here, again, to go over it, if in the semifinals, if one team out of either game is unable to play, their opponent, it will go down as a forfeit, and their opponent will move on to the championship game. If both opponents in one game, so say, for instance, Cincinnati and Alabama, God forbid, are both unable to play, then the winner of the other semifinal, so Michigan and Georgia, the winner of that game would be named national champion, and that would be it. There would be no game on January 10th. If 3 of the teams are unable to play, then the one team remaining, even without having played a game yet in the playoff, they would be named national champ. Now, you went through all that. Great job. The last thing here, though, that we did not get to, and honestly, I was not aware of till I just read this. We get to the national championship game. Hopefully we have 2 opponents. That's Monday, January the 10th in Indianapolis. In the rule here, if either team comes down with players out, the college football playoff is able to move the game back as far as Friday, January 14th. So that's only 4 extra days. But if both teams are unable to play on either the original or the rescheduled date, the game shall be declared no contest, and the college football playoff national championships shall be vacated for the season, meaning there would be no national champion for the 2021-2022 season.
Well, why not just give it to the team with the highest APR?
I don't know.
If you want to recognize academics, give it to the team with the highest APR as national champion. How about that?
How about it? And who would that be?
College presidents who pretend to care about academics, give it to the team with the highest APR. I don't know who it is off the top of my head, but do it. Do it. Yeah. Okay. We've been teasing this all week because, well, we've been trying to get to these pieces, but we've been always interrupting ourselves. Here are some comments from Clemson's new defensive coordinator. He does have a co-coordinator with him, but he is the defensive coordinator, and he'll be calling the defensive plays for Clemson in the bowl game and beyond. Wes Goodwin, probably never heard of him until things happen with Brent Venables. Here he is talking earlier this week with the media about stepping into this new position, being in the spotlight and directing the Clemson defense.
Off the top of my head, nothing really like stands out. You know, every day I'm just going to come in and be myself, you know, from an intensity standpoint and just being a rah-rah guy. You know, that's probably not me, but I'm going to get, you know, I'm going to get fired up at times. I am very passionate in my own way and that sort of deal. So, but just I have to come in and be myself and do things how I do them.
Wesley, one of the things that people talk about you being the right-hand man to Brent, what was your role in terms of every week preparing and helping this team?
Yeah, just scouting report-wise, studying opponents, studying tendencies, anything we could gain from an advantage, and then obviously just schematically, confirming or, discussing ideas and that sort of thing. Just kind of being the leader of the, opponent study and studying personnel, studying tendencies, that sort of deal. And just, I knew his expectations. He lined out and just made sure everybody else did their job. We all collaborated together, came up with a game plan.
Do you feel like he was grooming you along the way to kind of show you, mentor you a little bit on how to do game day type stuff?
Yeah, definitely. I think all great coaches are coaches of players and fellow coaches around them. And definitely, we would talk, what he's thinking in this situation, his thoughts about coverages, pressures, that sort of deal, personnel, how to take, matchups and that sort of deal. So just total education of the game, just being in that room every day.
Just in terms of your new role with these bowl practices, what are your realistic goals to learn and accomplish in this time?
Yeah, our goals are same standard of defense that Coach Sweeney, set forth day one, play defense at a high level. Our defense isn't based off of one person. Clemson's defense has always been about players. And, our expectations is to continue to play great defense and even try to ramp it up a notch.
I mean, in terms of just doing the day-to-day and game day being and stuff like that, what do you want to learn?
Yeah, just, taking full control, and just being the guy and running all the situational football and obviously calling the game and just, getting in the flow of game and in the flow of the game and just, just figuring out who I am as a play caller and running things from the sideline.
You mentioned play calling, something you haven't done before. I mean, you kind of knew this might be coming at some point. How have you prepared yourself?
I prepared every day as if I'm the play caller. I would run through games and I would, in my mind, play the game out. I'm going to call this in this situation. That wouldn't be a great call. So every day for the last 10, 12 years that I've been in this profession, I've always thought big picture, so preparing myself for this moment. So it's been years and years of, time spent studying the game.
Yeah. Do you feel like you have something to prove at all? I mean, just because people may not know you've never been a position coach, never done any of that before.
I mean, my expectations for myself are good enough. I don't have to prove anything to anybody else. I have really high expectations for myself, and that's all that I care about.
All right, there you go. Wes Goodwin stepping into the hot seat, replacing the maybe irreplaceable. Is Brent Venables the irreplaceable? We shall see how Clemson responds. Meantime, Dabo Swinney has filled a spot on the defensive support staff. He has hired Jody Evans out of Cottonwood, Alabama. He told WTVY this week that he's accepted a defensive analyst and assistant recruiting director role on the staff. He is a former Alabama roommate of Sweeney's, and he said that they've remained connected over the years, stayed in touch, family visits, and thus when this opportunity made itself available, Sweeney reached out to him and he accepted. Let's see here. If there's anything else to add to this, I think that's pretty much it. So once again, Dabo Swinney reaching into his background, into his connections, into people he's loyal to, and at the same time, he expects them to be loyal to him. Mickey Kahn was a roommate of his at Alabama, and he took him from a high school, gave him a start in his program, and look where he is now. So this is what Dabo Swinney has built his resume on when it comes to hiring coaches and analysts and developing them and then promoting them to positions on the staff. And I imagine he's hired this gentleman, Jody Evans from Cottonwood, Alabama, to develop him and to eventually become a position coach on his staff as other coaches leave down the road, which is, of course, inevitable. All right, let's give you the recruiting report tonight, brought to you by Seawells. Seawells will be closed all of next week. I know that's disheartening for people looking for that great luncheon buffet, but they'll be back in January, and you will be too. Just make sure you get over there often when they have their doors open for you once again, 11 to 2. Monday through Friday for the delicious luncheon buffet. It's only $12. And for the very best in the catering business, you need to call none other than Seawells. They'll come to your location and handle everything for you, or they can host at their location on Rosewood Drive in Columbia, 803-771-7385, the number, online at SeawellsCateringSC.com. A few Christmas Eve recruiting notes for you. Clemson's in the top 7 with 2023 offensive tackle Peyton Kirkland of Orlando. The others are Ohio State, Oklahoma, Michigan, Penn State, Georgia, and Miami. 2023 tight end Mac Markway of St. Louis, cousin of former USC tight end Kyle Markway, decommitted from Florida. He was offered by the Muschamp staff at USC. Remains to be seen if the two sides will resume communicating. Former Florida receiver Jacob Copeland is transferring to Maryland. He announced that today. It had been mentioned here and other media outlets that cover USC recruiting that South Carolina was interested in Copeland, and some had indicated maybe even heavily involved or maybe seriously interested. But I'm told this afternoon that there was none of that, that South Carolina looked into him, looked into the background, etc., and passed on him. So never really was heavily involved with trying to get him to transfer. Arizona State transfer wide receiver Johnny Wilson is headed to Florida State. So we'll see where South Carolina goes in its hunt for another wide receiver. Maybe it's the Cowing kid who's transferring from UTEP, but he's got a bunch of other major offers as well. We'll see if South Carolina stands out to him at some point when he gets down to making that decision. Safety Devontae Porter is transferring to South Carolina State. He is a product of that football factory, Latta, home of champions. Started his career at Furman before transferring to the University of Charleston in West Virginia. Now he's headed to South Carolina State. And I mentioned Jacob Cowing, the wide receiver from UTEP. Of course, he picked up many offers Thursday once he formally announced his departure and entered the portal, John, along with South Carolina, Arizona, Arizona State, Virginia Tech, Liberty, LSU, Oregon, and Mississippi State, some of the other schools to offer him. And Clemson's in the top 7 with 2023 defensive tackle Derek LeBlanc of Kissimmee, Florida. The others are UCF, Ohio State, Miami, Penn State, Florida, and Oklahoma. All right, there you go with the recruiting news tonight here on Sports Talk. After the break, we bring you some comments from USC's defensive coordinator, Clayton White, and his thoughts about his defensive unit getting ready for this high-powered North Carolina offense. North Carolina can score. You got to give them credit for that. They can put some points on the board, and South Carolina's defense is going to have to be at its best. I mean, when you think about it, this could be, pound for pound, maybe the best offense South Carolina will have played this season in North Carolina. We'll be back after the break.
I'm attorney Jim Corbett. I love sports, and I've helped people for over 30 years. Contact me at jim@jimcorbettattorney.com when the insurance company won't pay your claim or you have complicated issues. Some other business causes your business to lose money, jim@jimcorbettattorney.com. When you lose a relative and find out you got cut out of a will or don't get what was promised. When you have serious injury, like from a wreck or mishap or on the job, jim@jimcorbettattorney.com.
We've got Major Billy Downer with us here from the South Carolina Department of Natural Resources. Hunting season is upon us. Major Downer, how do we stay safe?
Smitty, that's a great question. Mistaken for game is a leading cause of hunting accidents each year. So this year, DNR is encouraging everyone to wear hunter orange and use a flashlight when traveling to and from your hunting location in low light. Remember, be safe, be seen.
And remember, life's better outdoors. Visit dnr.sc.gov for more.
All South Carolinians aged 5 years and older are now eligible for the COVID-19 vaccine. For help finding a vaccine location in your area, visit scdhec.gov/vaxlocator or call 1-866-365-8110. COVID-19 vaccines are free and don't require ID or insurance. Visit scdhec.gov/vaxlocator or call 1-866-365-8110 to find a vaccine location near you.
Life. It has its ups and downs. Sometimes it's little things like hitting every red light or dropping your cell phone. Maybe it's the bills, rent, or pressure at work. But when it comes to the South Carolina Education Lottery, you should never feel like playing will solve everything. The lottery is a game. It's played for fun. So set a dollar amount. Expect not to win and make sure responsibilities, family, friends, and work come first. Visit playresponsiblysc.com.
USC defensive coordinator Clayton White and his staff got their hands full with North Carolina. Sam Howell has passed for over 10,000 yards in his career. He's thrown 91 touchdown passes. He has some really fine weapons on the offensive side. Josh Downs is an outstanding wide receiver. And Ty Chandler, the transfer running back from Tennessee, very, very dangerous. Here's Clayton White from earlier this week when he talked with the media, gave his take on how the Gamecock defense is coming along in preparation and his thoughts on the Tar Heels.
How's it going, Clayton? Obviously, it's silly season, and some guys are going pro or opting out or whatever. So when you're preparing your defense, knowing you won't have a guy like JJ out there, how much does that change your dynamic? How much, drastic changes do you have to make to combat that loss?
Obviously, when you lose a guy like a JJ, you want to wish him well, and hopefully they making the right decision for him and his family. As far as us, we won't change anything. We just keep it going, and next man's up. Obviously, we have a couple good players behind them, so we feel good about the talent that's there, and just looking forward to playing this bowl game.
Clayton, what progress and what do you want to see from this defense against obviously a good quarterback in Sam Howell from the end of the season until now? What kind of progress do you want to see get made, and what do you want to see from your unit in the bowl game?
Want to see our guys go out there and execute the defense and play with great passion, great fire, great effort all day on Saturday morning, on whatever morning that is on the 30th. Want to make sure our guys do a good job of remembering the game plan, and it's been a while, and tackling well, and all those good old things that you want to do, that you want to make sure you represent the football team.
Clayton, what sort of things have stood out when you've looked at UNC and what they do offensively, and what are some of the key points you're really trying to hammer home with your guys heading into that game?
Yep, some of the things that they do well, obviously they are big time, have a lot of rushing yards, obviously through the running backs and the quarterback himself. Obviously he does a fantastic job of breaking tackles. We have to be great as far as pursuing to the ball more. We don't want that many solo tackles. We want to have at least 2 or 3 guys to the ball at all times. We got to tackle great. Bowl games, you turn on the TV and you see some sloppy play. We don't want to be a part of that.
Clayton, you signed a bunch of defensive guys in this last class. Just what are some of your impressions of them, and how big is it to get a guy like Stone Blanton, obviously, in your room that's coming from was recruited by some other SEC schools as well?
Definitely coming in here, as we looked at the roster when we first got here a year ago, we knew this had to be a big defensive class as far as up front, and obviously on the back end, obviously coming in, we didn't have a lot of DBs when we first got here. But it seemed like a really good group from top to bottom. Obviously, we want to continue to keep trying to add to the puzzle and just trying to get a complete class. But we like those guys, and obviously our staff has done a good job of recruiting all those guys on the defensive side.
Clayton, have you guys started UNC prep yet?
Yes. As far as the coaching staff, we kind of started early. But as far as last week, we started practice. It was just against offense versus defense. Today was our first day.
Things kind of start with Sam Howell there. Just what do you have to watch out for with him? How do you try to affect how he throws the ball?
Really, obviously Sam's a 6'1" kind of guy, so we got to do a great job up front of obviously clogging the lanes up for him. He's a quarterback that's going to find the opening area. He's going to scramble out. He's going to step up. He does all the things that you want a quarterback to do. So we just got to make sure that it's a long day for him in Charlotte, and just try our best to to obviously corral him and tackle him. He does a great job of breaking tackles. That's one of the best things he does as a quarterback for sure.
And within your signing class, you got obviously a bunch of DBs, kind of like you alluded to, and it seems like a lot of guys are kind of versatile. What do you like about that group, just as a whole, and what are just some of your general thoughts about them?
About the defensive backs?
Yes.
What I like about those guys, it's been kind of hard for us to figure out if they're a corner, they're a safety, or they're a nickel. So when we was Coach Gray and all of us on the defensive staff, we was wanting guys with position flex. And for the most part, I would say a lot of those guys give us that flex. So when we're moving pieces around on the board, we're able to say, when he gets here, we're going to see what he can do. He can play nickel, he can play safety. When he can play nickel, he can play corner. So that's kind of was the mindset. And I think we gave ourselves some flexibility whenever those kids get here.
All right, Clayton White, that's what he had to say. One thing about North Carolina, and they do have some impressive offensive numbers, but their quarterbacks have been sacked 45 times. It's too bad J.J. Inabari is not playing. He might have gotten himself 3 or 4 sacks in this thing. North Carolina's offensive line is huge. Maybe they're a little bit slow on the edges, or I don't know, maybe a little weak up the middle. I don't know, but they've given up 45 sacks on the season. They do average over 36 points per game. Just looking at their offensive numbers, I mean, it's eye-popping, some of the individual numbers that have been put up. I talked about Howell and over 10,000 yards passing on his career for this season. He's got 28-51, 23 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. That's not too awful. Ty Chandler is a 1,000-yard rusher, 1,063. Averages over 6 yards a carry, 13 touchdowns. Howell's got 11 touchdowns rushing. Howell's rushed for 824 yards. So between Chandler and Howell, you've got right at 1,900 rushing yards and 24 touchdowns. You gotta the linebackers and the defensive ends have got to keep their eyes on Howell and know what he's doing with the football. And then receiving wise, Josh Downs, he's got 98 catches, 1,273 yards, 8 touchdowns. He averages 13 yards a catch, 98 catches. So the next highest receiver in terms of numbers is Antoine Green, who's got 27. So there might not be a bigger difference in the country in receptions between your number 1 and number 2 receivers. That 71 catches difference between the two. You think you might want to double team Josh Downs, Pat? I think I might would consider double teaming Josh Downs and seeing if some of these other receivers can beat me.
Even you and I can see that seems like a smart decision. Absolutely, Corn. Anytime you get a chance, throw as many bodies as you can at him.
You got to hit this guy coming off the line. You got to have somebody with him, or he'll eat you alive. And then if it comes down to a kicking game, of course, South Carolina's got a great kicker in Parker White, and so does North Carolina. He made his name as an All-American at Furman. Grayson Atkins transferred to North Carolina this year, and he's been excellent, 17 of 21 on field goals, and he's hit 2 of greater than 50, perfect between 20 and 29. So, again, something to think about. South Carolina offensively, they're going to have to score some points. I mean, as well as the Gamecocks might play on defense and the interceptions that they've gotten this year, that's all well and good. You're not going to keep this North Carolina team out of the end zone. They can score points. You have got to score points. The fewest number of points North Carolina has scored this year was the 10 in the opening loss at Virginia Tech. Next fewest after that would be the 22 scored at Georgia Tech. Then, you look at their season, they did most of their losses on the road. They lost at Notre Dame. They lost at Virginia Tech. They lost at Georgia Tech. They lost in overtime at Pitt, and they lost at NC State. They only lost one home game, and that was to Florida State, 35-25, in what was a really bad performance by North Carolina at the time. So bad year for North Carolina, but they can put a positive spin on it by beating South Carolina next week. A good year for South Carolina, and the Gamecocks can put, I don't know, you can't call it great. What's above good? Semi-great, better than expected, better than good. If they can beat North Carolina, finish with a winning record, and then you've got these guys coming in these transfers coming in. That really will build some positive momentum for South Carolina heading into the last few weeks of recruiting in January and then into their off-season program and into spring practice. So I think it's it's important both ways, but I would say, North Carolina being more firmly established, Shane Beamer still trying to build. It's probably a bigger game for South Carolina to get that W, to beat North Carolina, to kind of put an exclamation point on a better than expected season. Remember, they were only expected to win 3 by Vegas coming in, and so they doubled that. Hey, Pat, thank you so much. Have a great holiday weekend, my friend. Merry Christmas to you. Merry Christmas to everybody out there listening. Thanks for being with us. Have a safe and great weekend, and we'll see you Monday here on Sports Talk.
WQXL Columbia, W264DF.
From the Bart Fireside Studio, the solution for keeping you warm this winter.
This is 107 The Point.